Good morning. Welcome to Life in the Philly Suburbs with Sharon. I'm Sharon Loudenbach. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a resident of Whitemarsh Township. I'm a real estate agent with Compass Real Estate in Philadelphia, in Chestnut Hill and Ambler. And I started this podcast, Life in the Philly Suburbs, because I've lived here my entire life. I went away for a couple of years for college. Otherwise, I've been here my whole life. First in Lower Merion and then in Whitemarsh Township for the last 25 years. And over the last 10 years of selling real estate, I realized how much I not only love this area of the Philly suburbs, but what great people and businesses that we have here that really draw people to stay here and live here. So I decided to bring a podcast to my listeners and interview great people. My quick before we introduce Deanna Durante today, my quick tidbit of realtor wisdom is we are in spring real estate market again, guys. So as a buyer, if you or people that you know are buyers, make sure that they are prepared. Make sure that their real estate agent has them filling out their BFI, which is the buyer's financial information sheet, have their pre-approval letter from the lender. The real estate agent should be in contact with whatever listing agent that they're looking at the house for, because most likely we are back in multiple offer situations again. And the most prepared and personal that the buyer agent is to the listing agent, it is actually truly important, especially in a multiple offer situation. So that's my tidbit for today. And today I'm here to introduce Deanna Durante from, she's a news reporter with NBC Universal. I wanted to make sure I said this right. NBC Universal, WCAU TV Philadelphia, what I call NBC10. Hi, Deanna.
Hello. It's funny. Those of us locals, we remember when Channel 10 was CBS.
I
So some people
actually,
still think of it. They still get confused about the whole thing.
I can't remember how old we were at the time, but I remember that. And I was like, why the switch? Like, I don't even want to get into the background of that, but I do remember. It's funny that you say that. Yes. So, Deanna and I were friends on Facebook, and I'm not sure even exactly how. You're just super active on Facebook as I am. And somehow through connections, we became friends. And you're actually really a great poster and really interactive on the platform. And 4 years, almost 4 years ago, when most of America was out and about a little bit into COVID and lockdown, real estate agents still were not allowed to help buyers or sellers sell real estate. So you reached out and you actually interviewed me through Zoom. Again, isn't that funny? On the station. So that was really cool. And I mean, for behind the scenes, people don't know, but we live about 2 miles from each other. So we live in the same community. Our kids are different ages because I'm a couple years older. But we sort of run with similar people. So welcome and thank you so much for taking the time today.
Sure, no problem. I'm just glad that I finally had some technological problems. I can't tell you how many Zooms I try and do, and it's like, can you hear me yet? No, I can't hear you. So I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, thanks for pulling over. You and Jason are awesome. Thank you for pulling over. So let's start in our typical way. Let's tell listeners about who you are. What inspired you to start your career in broadcasting, and just a little connection back to Syracuse since we both did start there.
Well, before I started Syracuse, I have to go back to Plymouth-Whitemarsh High School, and
Okay.
I would never have even
Hmm.
thought about it. I was in my homeroom, ninth grade, and I heard an announcement for CITV that they were looking for people to try out for a show called PW Live. And I thought, oh, that would be great on a college application because I thought I wanted to be a lawyer or an interior designer. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And my at the time my mom was working for an accounting agency. She may have changed to a brokerage house at that point back when we had them in Philly. And so it wasn't something that I could really explain what she did. My father was a forensic detective, so I knew what he did. And then as I started kind of putting together stories and things, and learning to edit, I'm like, wow, I have this thing. I think I like this. I think I like being able to show that this is what I do. I have this thing. So I was all in for trying to be a TV reporter in Philadelphia. And I didn't know a lot about Syracuse. Think about 1991, 1992. I mean, there
There
was
was
this
no
thing
internet.
called There was
Do you
this
remember
thing
we had
called
a book?
the information superhighway. It's coming and nobody knew what that was. And I mean, obviously some people knew, but us late people, we didn't know. So I borrowed one of those books. Like I think
Yep.
it was like the Barron's Big Book of Colleges.
Uh-huh.
And I just went through it A to Z and circled which schools I thought would be good. Obviously, you know about Syracuse because of its basketball program, but I saw that it had two TV stations and I said, okay,
Oh,
I'll apply there. And then as I started learning more about Syracuse, I learned about the Newhouse School. And
yep.
fun fact, I actually didn't get into Newhouse my freshman year.
Yep.
I was in the speech communication VPA program. And I think my mother thought I was insane because I did get into the communications program at Ithaca, Hofstra, and Boston University. And I'm like, nope, this is the one I want. So I spent the first year in
Wow.
VPA. And then that was my, I had enough credits, not enough credits to do a double major, but enough credits to do a specialization, which was a little bit higher than a minor. So I kept going with VPA and then, jumped into Newhouse sophomore year and made up for lost time. And um, yeah, so love Syracuse, met my husband there,
We
even though
did.
we had a 10-year hiatus, but we lived across the hall from each other freshman year. And then when I was
Which dorm
out
were you
in,
in? Do you remember which dorm you were in?
oh, of course I do. I was on the Mount.
Oh, you were on the Mount.
I was on the Mount
I
because
was
I'm like,
lucky.
those stairs, I want those stairs. Except what you don't realize is, and it's funny because we just went back there this summer. We brought the kids to drive around. And the
Yeah.
stairs, when you go up Mount, for people who don't know Syracuse, there's this thing called Mount Olympus, and there's Flint and Day Hall. And so Flint and Day were my first choices because I wanted the stairs, I wanted the exercise. But as each landing, there was a gap. So you would get snow and ice in there. And I can't tell you how many times, it was a joke, how many times I was going to fall going up and down these stairs. I mean, somebody always was flat out. But now they've created the roof to come all the way down.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
finally, 20 years later, they figured out we have an ice problem.
We were much tougher back then. We were way much tougher back then.
Well,
So,
once you're older,
so
you worry about things breaking more permanently too.
for sure. Oh, for sure. So, I mean, I went there also. I was, like I said, a couple years older than you. I was in Del Plaine, like right on campus for 2 years. I was like super lucky because I was afraid of those steps. Like I was not looking at it as exercise. I was scared to death of those damn steps. Anyway, let's move on. So you eventually get into Newhouse, which is one of the best communication schools in the country. You graduate. What do you do?
I came home for a few months. I worked at Talbot's in the King of Prussia Mall, and I temped, and I sent out tapes left and right. And I basically had said, the first job offer I get, I'm going. It's too
Mm.
competitive. You just need to go. So the first job offer I got was in August of, I graduated May of 1997. By August 1997, I was packed up
Mm.
and headed to Hastings, Nebraska.
That's great. Like you had not even a full 3 month hiatus. That's incredible.
I mean, it's scary because you don't know like why you're sending out tapes. I mean, today's students have it a lot easier because everything's through the internet, and it's like $3 to $5 a tape, and then it's $3 to $5 to send them, and it's not like you're getting them back.
Hmm.
So I just
So,
hit, you have market sizes, and I hit market 80 to 210 and just kept sending those tapes.
mhm. So then how'd you get back to Philly?
So then after about 2.5, 3 years in Nebraska, at that point I was totally different. I was shooting all my own stuff.
Okay.
Then I kind of went up through the ranks, and by the time I left, I was it was Central Time, so the 6 and 10 o'clock anchor. And I did it again. I just started sending out those tapes, and then the next job offer that came was Little Rock, Arkansas, and I went there. And I was there for about a year and a half. And then, again, at this point now, while I was there, I signed with a broadcast agent that was helpful.
Okay.
Um, I ended up interviewing twice in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, once for the NBC and once for the Fox station. And I took the job for the Fox station. And I worked there for 3 years. I learned a ton. I was so lucky. The two main anchors there were just incredible. Ted Perry and Joyce Garbasiak. I'm still in touch with Joyce,
Hmm.
which again, because now you have Facebook and the internet, you can be. But I
Sure.
learned so much from them. Your first job, you're just trying to get that product on the air. And your second job, you're trying to figure things out. But I was really lucky that here were two local people, that they were from the Milwaukee area. They
Mm.
dedicated their career there, and they were really talented and they were really helpful. Um, you could just watch them and learn. And that was one of the things I said in my interview, which I think maybe had impressed the news director, was Ted at the time did a story series called Perry's People. It was just really beautifully written. And I
Mm.
said, wow, I can really learn a lot from that guy. And so
Yeah.
I did. I learned a lot. I'm so lucky and so grateful to both of them because they did take the time. And in the other two
Yeah.
markets, there's just no time. I mean, everybody's trying to learn.
Yeah. So it evolves. Like, how did you end up in, am I correct thinking that you're like the Philly suburban newscaster, like for all the more suburban things that happen? Am I reading this correctly?
Well, it kind of happens that way just because this is where I am. This is where I'm in touch with people. This is where a lot of my contacts were out here. I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up in Conshohocken, so I didn't settle far from where I went home. And obviously, this is a really big market, is what we
Yeah.
call it. So we cover everything from the Poconos to to Delaware. So we're lucky that we have two people who are really dedicated in New Jersey and in Delaware that know their areas. And then I think just because this is where I am, yeah, I'll get on the morning call rather than go in downtown to the station and figure out what's going on out here. And every morning my husband jokes it's like a gunshot start. Yeah. And once it starts, we don't know when we're gonna see you. Um,
Unfortunately,
so
literally.
So I'll send in a big list, and if something's happening or there's a really big story, I mean, think back this summer to Cavalcante, like that wasn't even a guessing game. I just knew every morning I was going to be running to wherever the search was. And quite
Mm.
honestly, I was up most of the night talking to sources that were out there on the search too. So sometimes you
God.
don't get a lot of.
I didn't even think of that one. I don't know why I didn't see you during that time. Maybe I just wasn't. Sometimes I take a break from the news. I'm sure you hear that sometimes. Like it's a little negative. So sometimes I do take a break from the news. But wow, so you were sort of tracking him down as well with hundreds of other people.
We were, and it's challenging because some people were just taking what they were hearing on the scanners and reporting it. But one thing to remember, especially as so many people have social media to say their opinion, is anybody can call in a report and say they saw him or that he got into a car. But unless it's 100% verified, I'm not going to say it. And so, yeah, you're seeing it all over Facebook. I heard he's in Delaware. I heard he's in Harrisburg, but he was. We know now he wasn't. And one of the reasons we didn't say it was we knew he wasn't. And at that point, as that specific story, as that went on and on and on, you weren't sure what resources he had. Did he somehow get a phone? Was he somehow on the internet?
Yeah.
So then you
Oh, for sure.
careful. Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, yeah.
lots
So
of stuff we know and we
how
can't.
how is the broadcast industry changing? There's technology, there's all these different things that are happening. What do you think the most significant development in the broadcast industry is right now?
I think it's that you can find things out wherever you want and as soon as you want. It used to be something happened and it was so rare. I mean, think back to the days, when the soap operas were on during the day. It was so rare. It had to be so big for a
To
TV
break
station to
to break
end.
it. Yeah.
But we don't need to do that now. We can send you a push to your phone, to your email account, to your smartwatch, and you can see that video. You can see when, for example, the mayor of Philadelphia is going to be giving her budget address. You can watch that on your phone while you're on the train. You can download it and watch it
Yep.
later. You can build your own newscast. So you can still stay informed, but not in the traditional way. But however, the one thing that's remained the constant is even though you can do all that on your phone, really when something big happens, people are turning on their TVs.
They're
Still.
still you're still seeing that when saying big hat. I mean I do that, but I feel like I'm a little older. Like I'm almost 54. Like I feel my generation is still going to the TV. Kids never go to like the 20s, they never go to the TV.
But it's the TV that's still pushing it to where they're getting it. So
Ah,
it's even though our technology may not be back in the day when you were cutting film and gluing it with rubber cement to edit your stories, it's still this same thing that's still giving you that information just in a different way that people want it. You're still turning on your TV and
yeah.
somebody else maybe watch, but it's still coming from the same place.
Still coming from the same place. Yeah, that's true. Um I feel like off this camera, I want to talk to you about all this cutting and pasting that you're talking about because now that I'm becoming a podcaster, I'm like, I should really be cutting and pasting. I go live. Like this is unedited when I do post it. I mean, you've seen my podcast, so it's totally unedited, but it's interesting to me because my background is not in broadcast. My background is in sales, retail, e-commerce marketing. It is not at all in broadcasting. So I'm learning a lot. So
Well, when I started as an intern, AYW Radio was still using rubber cement and razor blades to cut their audio. And then when I started in Nebraska, it was what we call, the linear editing, where it was tape to tape. So you would have something on one tape, something on another tape, and something on a third tape. So I had to nod to my photographer. We're about to cover a press conference when this is over. And now it's all on your computer. So
yeah.
It's a little complicated than when you do your Instagram reels, but it's kind of the same thing that you're dropping into
Totally.
a line. So you can do it.
Yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning. Okay. A lot of my listeners, because of my kids' age, are college and post-college age, just graduating. What advice do you have to give aspiring broadcasters to be successful in their field?
I tell it all the time. There's always going to be somebody who knows more than you.
Mm.
Sometimes, yeah, you got to pick up and move. We all want to come home someday, and you will. But soak up as much as you can. Don't be afraid to go out and do it all. Don't look for the easy place or the fun place to live. Look, I would have loved to have lived on a beach or the mountains. And I count my blessings that I was able to go to a small town in central Nebraska, because when else are you going to do that? Now I'm almost 50.
Yeah.
And
If someone can count, they figured this out. Yeah.
Right. I know. I was like, do I do it? And yeah, now there's other things that I need to focus on. I was joking with somebody earlier. I needed to hurry up and figure out what kind of dinner I could have ready, because there's orchestra practice, there's softball practice, there's other lessons tonight. I'm in Westchester, my husband's somewhere else, and then I may not stay in Westchester. I may be here. And so do those things now.
Yeah.
Go take those now. If someone offers you a job in Alaska, do it, because it's amazing to be able to say you did it and to look back and be grateful for what you did do, what you could do, especially the stuff you think you can't do, you can.
I love that. Thank you. That was great. So shoot, I almost lost. Being interviewed by a real estate agent, I'm going to ask you, I mean, not necessarily what brought you back to the Philly suburbs, but you've chosen to raise your family here and make your life here. What is it about? I know I can explain what mine is, but what's your reason for loving the Philly suburbs?
Well, I mean, you want to come home again. And I was never a live in the city. I did for a little bit in Little Rock, but I love having a vegetable garden. If you're paying attention, I'm getting excited for starting my garden. I love having that kind of space. I really love to cook and entertain. And, the times that I was in a small condo or something, it was like, I'm stretching everybody from the living room practically into the bedroom. Plus it's home. I grew up in Conshohocken.
Yeah.
I all around the area. And it's funny because when I was growing up and my mom was starting to work, she only had a couple of suits to wear to work. She had, so she needed 5 suits. We would drive every Saturday morning before my ballet lessons to the Flowertown dry cleaner, because it was the only one at that time in the early 80s that would be able to turn it around so she could have those suits for the next week. And every Saturday we would drive past this neighborhood and she would say to me, "Oh, I love that neighborhood. It's so cute." And every year on Christmas Eve, they put these luminaries out. Now here, you're going to love this. While I did not know you then and you were not my realtor, here's the power of a realtor. So I was looking around and there was a house that I really, really loved. And then we found out it flooded. House is gone. But then one came up as a coming soon. I don't know if they still do the caravans, but my realtor at the time was on a caravan. She's like, "I saw it. I want to get you in first thing tomorrow morning. Let me tell you the street." She starts to tell me the street. I said, "Oh my gosh, I know that street. I used to drive by that street every Saturday." And here's the best part. The people that did the luminaries were my next door neighbors and became like surrogate grandparents to my kids.
To your kids.
So that's one of the reasons we stayed in the neighborhood, because when you find a neighborhood you love so much, you stay, even if you are absolutely physically bursting at the seams. Because when I moved into that house, I was alone. I didn't even have a cat,
Wait till the opposite happens to you. So I'm an empty nester. I mean, 2 of my kids have returned, but this is temporary. But when you're an empty nester and all of a sudden the house that was perfect is now kind of big, and I still don't want to leave because I love my neighbors. Love
It's
my
such,
neighborhood.
it's such a big thing. We ended up moving then just about 2 miles away because we were running out of space, and then the pandemic hit, and it was like, well, thank God, because we have to pod, we have to do this, we have to do that. Um, and so
Yeah.
we still keep them. We're over there all the time. Our we ended up joining a pool just so that we could keep seeing all these neighbors again because we loved it so much. And I don't want to, we love our new neighborhood too, but that was the first place. And it was just almost like real estate karma. So
Yeah,
why
I
I
mean,
ended
there's something to be said about this area. Anybody who is a transplant from out of Philly that comes into the Philly area, especially like these smaller town suburbs, they just have never seen anything like it from where they're from. We are unique people. We're strong, we're hardy, we're all these things. And
like, we walk to school if we have to. I walked to school when I went to Conshohocken. You walk in the snow.
yeah, not so much anymore, Deanna, not so much anymore. They, if it snows, they just do it at home. So that's different. Do we have time for us to turn the tables and you to ask me a question?
I hope so because I've been dying to ask you this one.
Oh boy. Go
I
ahead.
need to I need to know the absolute craziest thing you have done to either make a sale happen or get that client moving along to get them, because it's daunting when you're trying to move, especially if you've been in a house for a long time. I need to know because I know for me, when we were buying our house, the sellers didn't want to look at the stuff online. The realtor got on a plane to bring them the offers. So I need to know what's the craziest thing you've done.
I didn't get I didn't get on a plane to bring the offers. Trying to think what the best story would be. I may not have anything that heroic like you're talking about, but
But still, it makes
I think the most important thing in an environment like we've been living in for almost 4 years now is to be brutally upfront and honest with my clients. Um, One of the things that I said, like in the realtor wisdom about having the buyers ready and the client being involved in that, the agent being involved in that. I have to prep my clients for what reality is in today's world or before. I mean, let's talk today's world because it's been so long now, this competitive market. you know, we're dealing with, offers over ask. We're dealing with a lot of offers that are either cash or waiving mortgage. Most offers are waiving home inspections, et cetera. So a lot of what I feel that I bring to the table, and the reason I feel like I have a lot of success for my buyers, and I talk to other agents that will say, oh, my buyers have been looking for 2 years. They've put in 15 offers, they haven't gotten any of them, is because I am brutally upfront with my client. Like, if this is the house that you need to live in, you need to do everything to get it, anything that you possibly can. And preparation is a huge part of it. So, I mean, me speaking with the client's parent that's contributing the gift funds, obviously me speaking with the lender at length and making sure everything's in line. That's kind of the craziest stuff I have. If I think of another one, I'll have to post it later. I can't think of anything crazy I've done.
there has to be
I
something.
can, I can tell you one story that pissed me off a couple of years ago. I had a client moving up here from Florida, and they were wonderful. Um, I'm pretty sure they were mostly cash or whatever. And they were ready to go at any time. They didn't have any children, so they could like drop everything and just come up to see a listing. And they were coming up to see a house. This is down in Delaware County, and the husband was in flight, and I got a call that the house went under contract. And that was cleaning up a mess on the other side of that because my poor client was like, "What do you mean? I bought a $400?"
You have to expect that. I mean, listen, when we went under contract in our house that we're in now, we were under contract before my husband saw it because we knew we wanted this neighborhood. We had seen enough of them, and it
Yeah.
was like, I don't have time. Like, if you don't have time to get over there, I went and saw it. I came home. I said, we're putting in an offer, and it was one of those deals where you had to have your ducks in a row. I
Yeah.
know there were
Yeah.
multiple. I don't really know. Their realtor said it was our realtor that was really helpful in making it happen. And again, we didn't know each other then.
No, but
But
that's
I think,
exactly what
yeah,
I said. That's exactly what I said earlier, is making sure that you are working with your own buyer's agent that is actually going to be communicating with the listing agent. I was just the listing agent on a multiple offer last weekend, and I was relying on those agents to communicate perfectly with me, because if they weren't, like, I have another really fabulous offer on the table. Like, and I know what gets the client to settlement. So you have to be really, really on top of it. Yeah. Oh God, I need to prepare for these questions better. I let you guys ask me questions
I
that I'm not prepped for.
but I do have to run.
Okay,
I have
good.
to go and cover this press conference on the steps of the courthouse in Chester County. So we'll
All
see you on
right.
the news tonight.
I'll see you on the news tonight. Thank you for being here. You can click off. I'm just going to do my ending really quick.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
So, thank you for being with us today on Life in the Philly Suburbs with Sharon. I hope you all enjoyed that. Deanna Durante is quite a spirited friend. And I will be back next week. If you're looking to find me, you can always find me on all my socials at Sharon Loudenbach. SharonLoudenbach.com is my website, and on YouTube at Life in the Philly Suburbs with Sharon. Thanks so much. See you next time.